Welcome to Speaking in Spoons, the Chronically Ill podcast, with your host, Christina Brookman.
Hi, this is Christina Brookman, your host for Speaking in Spoons, with the lovely Lexi and Dr. Strauss, where every week is Pain Week. This week we are talking about relationships. We also, Lexi had a great idea. She mentioned, not great idea. We're both in San Francisco to avoid the hurricane. I guess, are you in the Florida swamps, Nate?
I'm hiding in tall grass.
Okay, there you go. He's being inspired by
He's so
you,
green.
Lexi.
You don't know where. I could be in any grass on this planet. Oh wait, the hurricane will never find me.
There you go. You're in the Philippines. But a shout out to the families in Florida and all along the East Coast. People are suffering.
Shout out,
No,
really.
shout out.
Condole.
Condolences. Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Shout
Not
out.
thinking well today. For those of you that have been following, I just had neck surgery last week to remove all the hardware from my neck. We're gonna do an update episode on that maybe next week or something. We're actually talking to Mr. Eric Dieters, who is the lawyer for a lot of the cases up in Ohio against Dr. Durrani, the butcher of Pakistan, who was my former surgeon. And my new surgeon, Dr. Scheimer, I just want to give a shout out and thank you to him and his team at UVA, because they really helped. He said everything was so loose in there. He was worried about it hitting my spine. So glad it's all out and I'm here. So let's get to the dirt, peeps. Let's talk about relationships. We're just gonna pass the conch and talk about what our disabilities are, because some people may not know, and how they have affected our relationships, both romantically or do you want to start with one or the other first, like friends and family, and then go to romance?
No, let's start with romance. That's what everybody's here for.
True. Let's get to the dirt.
Week.
Okay, romance. How has disability affected your romantic relationships? Anybody want to start?
Well, like I said with Nick, it gave me a dirty little secret that I either had to tell my partner about from the get-go or hide from her. And then she would find out eventually and then, yell at me about it.
Well, tell your story of dating through MS a little bit.
My 14-year story of dating.
Yeah, well, that's actually, people may not know, that's how Nate and I met, was through OkCupid. I posted on my profile all of my dirt about my house. And at the time, like you have said, Nate, you were not public about that.
This was more invisible in those days.
Yeah.
I mean, not to me, it was always visible, but to other people, it was very invisible.
Yeah.
So it was easier, I guess, to go about with the normal people and pretend like you were normal.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was nice when we met and you opened up, and I was like, oh, somebody who gets it. And we became really good friends.
We did. We hung out a lot. I mean, we still
watching
hang
Luther.
out. Luther. Yeah, he's life. Luther is life.
Luther is life. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun little mantra, and then we got a little bit more intimate for a hot second, and then things kind of fizzled.
Yeah.
We remained friends, and I think that's better, honestly, in the long run.
Yeah.
I don't talk to any ex-girlfriends. So,
I feel special.
yeah, you could have just been a number.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. Now you're my friend.
Gwen, you're
Friend.
my soulmate, boo. I call you my soulmate. We would be
Yeah,
the horrible couple because we disagree about like everything when it comes to medicine and science.
yeah, you're all for it, and I'm all against it.
I like a happy medium, but yes, I am pro-vaccine, and which apparently you have to ask about these days. I was online dating and a guy not only is anti-COVID vaccine, but he doesn't vaccinate his children for anything. And I was like, no, that's going to be a problem. We
Man,
can't.
I marry that man.
You're going to marry that man?
My soulmate. I'm sorry. He's
You're
my.
in the, see, I was going to say you're in the Philippines with your wife in the Philippines.
Oh, it won't be so funny when she's actually my wife. So, it'll be a funny joke until then. I just Yeah. Well, we can start from the beginning. I was dating a girl when I got diagnosed.
Yeah.
That was fun. We both went on this like death spiral together. And then I don't know. It made me getting sick. I don't know if it was the meds, but I got so paranoid about everything,
Yeah.
especially her. Like I didn't trust her, and then I didn't trust the girl I left her for. But that might have been. I mean, that might have. That probably had some like validity to it, not to trust her. But I don't know. It's just been really difficult to trust anybody for a
I
long
hear
time.
that. Yeah. Sorry, Phoenix wants to eat my dinner because it smells good.
Tell him to get off the podcast unless he has something intelligent to say.
Um,
Why did you?
you said you sabotaged relationships. Phoenix, you sabotaged relationships because, like you wanted to get married and have kids, but you were, I don't know.
Not consciously, but I hated myself for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I thought about killing myself a couple of times, sometimes once a week. Like when I was living down in Richmond, I used to think about killing myself like at least once every week. I mean, I've done a lot of self-sabotaging. So, like, I think the reason I broke up with the girlfriend that I had when I got diagnosed was partially because I didn't want to saddle her with whatever was coming.
Yeah.
But there was also paranoia of I didn't trust her. And
That's
then
interesting that you bring up this paranoia because I don't know if it's paranoia with me, but like I have some real trust issues.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she had cheated on me a couple times. Like, she never slept with anybody, but she kissed a couple people, or that's what she told me, and I just had a hard time. But I kept taking her back because I was afraid to be alone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
It's always gilded. Like your memories, you remember the good times, you don't remember the bad times.
yeah.
Like I look back on my relationship with her, and I only remember the good things.
Maybe that's healthy though in a way. Although it doesn't help you with future. It's your mind protecting you in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know. Um Lexi, how about you? How has disability affected your relationship?
Well, I mean, starting off, I mean, did you mention did anybody mention the statistic that I love?
No, go for it.
So, like, they did a study about people with chronic and terminal illnesses, and they were like, yo, do relationships last? And pretty much they found that, like, in those cases, like, basically 25% of men stay. and 75% leave. And the opposite is true for women. 25% leave and 75% stay if the partner is male. And they only did it with male and female. So that was just the demographics of the study.
Yeah.
Pretty
Uh
good images they got there.
but yeah, so like, I mean, now that I'm chronically ill, I'm like, and even before that, like, multiple relationships ended because of the migraines. Once they see about a really good attack where I was like either double-sided or single, or and it's not on them, like, a lot of them had chronically ill parents, and like they didn't want to see their partner go through that, especially so young. So like I get it. And I couldn't, be part, I'm not that dream of, the
ideal
wife,
mate.
yeah, the ideal mate of like the one that goes to work and everything. We all know that aspect. And so I mean, I just kind of like, it's not really, if it happens, it happens. If it's not, if it doesn't, I'm pretty much okay with that too. I mean, when I was a kid, I pretty much like dreamed about having a dog in an apartment anyways. So I mean, I pretty much just foresaw the future, I guess.
Living
When I had a kid, I always dreamed of a family, like just a happy, healthy family. And of course, I always dreamed of my childhood sweetheart. Or and we would be married. I could picture the kids, and our entire house was carpeted. Like even the kitchen. Who does that? Who carpets kitchen? Bad idea, Brooklyn. But yeah, I was married, and I think it brought a lot of challenges into our relationship. He was my best friend. Um we had made a lot of plans of things we would do professionally together. And then my ability to do that changed. And his interests evolved too. And ours kind of diverged. But I think a big issue that we ran into early in our marriage was that I had a very strong need to feel safe when a lot of these like emergencies were coming up, like going to the ER, like my back going out, things like that. And I didn't feel safe. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. And when you're in that kind of pain, you can't think well. And I really wanted somebody to be there and help just advocate for me and kind of direct chat, like just say, as if I were a kid, okay, this is what's happening, this is what's gonna and he was not comfortable doing that because he very much wanted to leave me my choice, which I appreciate. But I think that was an area that was difficult for both of us. And as I've gotten older, I've come to realize, and I've gotten better at the years at communicating my medical needs. I've come to realize I am my best advocate, and I get shit done for me, except when I'm paralyzed and I can't talk, then I can't do it. And that's a whole daunting other, but I'm, trying to set up powers of attorney and pre-communicate with doctors and have cheat sheet paperwork that I always carry around with me. But I think that's very hard in relationships. You feel like you need, and not just a lover and a friend, you need an advocate. And some people are scared of those type of roles. and are uncomfortable with those type of roles, and then feel like you're judging them for not being that for you. And it was very traumatic when he left, because it Phoenix is eating my stuff, not my food. He's eating bags. But it was traumatic because I was sick at the time. You know, I'd gotten out of the hospital and I couldn't go back home and say goodbye to my friend. I've never gotten to in person say goodbye to people, and that was hard. But I think it was honestly the best thing that ever happened for both of us. You know, because I think I've heard he's doing well, which is great, makes me happy. But also we obviously weren't right for each other, you know, and my health has only gotten increasingly worse, and I really need, but I still do. I like you, Lexi. I know I'm probably going to end up being a cat lady, um, or a dog lady. I can't care for dogs, but anymore because I can't walk them. But so I'll be a cat lady. But I really want to I don't want to die alone. That's my big thing. I don't want to die alone, but we all die
I know,
alone.
I'm
Like,
scared of that too.
I just
I'm
want
so
to,
terrified of that.
yeah, I just don't want to be in the room by myself. So I'm like, I guess I just got to make really good friends with the nurses. And yeah, that's scary. You know, and I'm at the point, and I know you're kind of there right now, Lexi, of having to go to a freaking nursing home right now. And I don't want to. It would be horrible for me because of all this, the sensory exposure. Like, my trigeminal would just be through the roof, and the migraines, like I'd be paralyzed and then just laying with like needles and knives in my eyes and ears, and because everybody's going to be sanitizing, people got hairspray and perfumes, and it'd just be a mess. Plus, they're not going to have Netflix, and I would die without Netflix.
Same.
Phoenix, I'm gonna throw something at you. I'm the crazy cat lady. But online dating, holy hell.
It's hell. It is such hell. What was your worst date?
My worst,
With
uh,
or without?
I is more the conversations. I like online dating in that, you know, it gets very isolated having these disorders sometimes. So sometimes when I'm able to be on the phone and message and things like right now I'm having trouble with that because of my photophobia. But it's enjoyable to just talk to people,
Yeah.
like, and have company, you know,
Yeah.
and to meet people and some honest flirting. What's wrong with that? I'm a single 40-year-old woman. I'm allowed that. And I've made some of my best friends, like Nate. And I've got a couple other really great friends that I've made through online dating. So it's great. There's just, you know, Virginia had a serial killer.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate online dating. I hate dating in general. I would rather just, and my whole motto is anything they do in your head is better than what they're going to do in real life anyway.
But the
So,
problem is you can't physically get out there and meet anybody. So how,
yeah.
like, what am I supposed to do? Like, and then I have to be like, I'm sorry, I can't physically go out to have coffee with you or a nice dinner. Not that I could even afford it, but
Mhm.
here, well, does the restaurant accept my food stamps? But I'm usually open and people are nice and they'll help me with things, but now I can't even physically get out. So I have to be like, "Hey, would you like to have a nice watch TV or movie in the living room, and I'll light some candles so it doesn't smell like cat pee?" But I can't be like, "Hey, let's on the first date, let's go watch TV on my bed." Like, I mean, I could, but I don't want to. Like, I'd like to, I don't know. It's challenging. And it
Yeah.
makes intimacy challenging because of pain, you know. That's a whole other, like, I have to talk to my physical therapist about like appropriate positions and things like that. And that's going to be taboo, but
I tried
I
to
was
like
crying.
Waters to see if my PT was okay with that question. And he was like, let's just not talk about things like that. And I was like,
Okay.
because I don't know how to do like so like I'm just looking up geriatric Kama Sutra now. And
Geriatric Kama Sutra.
I've
Okay.
looked up like books for like back pain and things like positions for back pain, but I can't read now, so I really do need the physical therapist to help. And
yeah,
I mean, like tantric, maybe that would be cool. But this is a legitimate concern, not just for like young people, but for like, I mean, human connection in intimacy and connection is a big part of any relationship. So to ignore that as doctors and physical therapists, I think is inhumane because, like I cried to my physical therapist. I was like, how do I do this? Because every time I do it, my back goes out and I can't walk for like a week. And that doesn't seem like a good idea. And then, it someone I'm seeing now is like or therapist wise is like, well, let's wait till we get you through the surgery. And I'm like, I'm out of the surgery. I'm like, okay, I'm out of the surgery. Can we talk about this? And she's like, let's wait till you get healed. And I'm like, honey, I'm never healed. Let's just be honest about that. I am never healed. This is ongoing crap of my life. We gotta talk and adjust every week, and I need help here because I don't want to feel dead.
yeah. I mean, you feel dead already. Like, I mean, there's only so much fucking Netflix you can fucking watch.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. I am the
Preach.
explicit and the explicit content part that shows up on Netflix for us.
We're not on Netflix, honey. We're on
Not
Spotify.
Netflix, Spotify. That's what I meant. I was like, I am the explicit. Every time I see that it says explicit, every time I'm like, well, that's fucking me. All right, I realized if I turned on the light, maybe we would stop having issues, and I was right.
I know, that's what I had to do. Phoenix,
like
no.
fucking wraith thing going on, which I thought was pretty cool.
What?
It was what?
It like a Tolkien wraith sort of look. Like,
Oh,
give me the ring, Frodo.
give me so that's like part of green light therapy, man. Like I tried to use it for the pain.
The look. You should put that on your Tinder.
So wait,
I don't
who's
have
on
a
Tinder?
Tinder.
No, Tinder is
I don't
just for
do online. Like, I mean, I need to break down and probably do that, but I don't want to.
have
Like,
you ever
I'll get
done
on
any?
it for like a day and then get terrified and sign right the fuck back off.
I'm just saying, make fake Tinder where you're a wraith from Lord of the Rings and you say enjoys looking for the One Ring. If you know where the One Ring is, please DM.
No, Nate and I got into the whole scams on online dating, and he was telling me about them, and I'm like, that's not real. And then it happened, and I was like, I pulled a Nate because he was telling me how he was like messing with them, and so I like, they want money, they want a gift, like, so this guy like he messages me and is like, hey, beautiful, and I'm like, you're too pretty to like me. Like, you're like model. This is not happening. So you're fake. But I was like, I'll go with this and see what happens. And then his English was not there. And I was like, this is really a fake account. And then and he's just being very sweet and lovey-dovey and not like a guy at all. And tell me how beautiful I am. And then a little bit later, um, he's like, oh, I'm having trouble with my internet. And I was like, oh, that's awful. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to get iTunes. I need money for iTunes. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, I need an Apple. He's like, do you think you could help? He's like, and I was like, is there anything I can do to help? And he's like, do you think you could get me an Apple gift card? And I was like, sure, whatever I could do to help. How much do you need? And he's like, do you think you can afford $500? And I was like, absolutely. And then I cut him off and I blocked him. But Nate's like, you should have kept going.
Yeah, you gotta lean into it. Like I usually try to find a gift card picture on Google and then send them the gift card picture. And then they want like they usually want it through Cash App, so I have to find a Cash App picture with that exact amount, and then send. I don't know. It's just like a long game of me just continuing this, or I don't know. The last girl I talked to was on this new dating app called, well, I don't know if it's new, but the vegan dating app called Begly. I met this girl. Well, I didn't meet her. I connected with this girl named Michelle with 2 M's, but not where you think. 2 M's in the beginning of her name. And she said she was in the military and she wanted to talk to me on WhatsApp. And usually when someone says they want to talk to you on WhatsApp, that's a sign
They're
that
fake.
but it wasn't a scam with the girl from the Philippines.
Probably because she got scammed before, and so she kept the WhatsApp. That's what I did.
Well, I think if you're not in the US, a lot of foreign countries use WhatsApp.
Yeah.
But the telltale is usually when I demand them to video chat with me because they will refuse. They'll
They
say
don't
like
want a video chat.
they'll say my internet's not working, or I need money for my internet. My internet's getting shut off, or my camera's broken.
The first guy that scammed me, he did a video chat with me, but he was like frozen or it would move for like a second or two. And I was like, oh crap. Nate warned me about this.
And they'll try to use a recording of the person talking. And you can tell it's like a recording because it just plays once and sometimes it loops. And I don't know. They're just like,
I just don't understand taking advantage of people who are out there trying to it's just mean. It's bullies. It's romance bullies.
Take advantage of stupid Americans when you live in like Cameroon or wherever the hell these people are from. I was propositioned by this very white girl who ended up being this black kid from some nation in Africa. It was just, we ended up having this conversation about like why he's scammed. Because I think I just ended up beating him so hard with what I was saying. Like I was talking to him in whatever language he was with like a Google Translate. I was texting him in that language, and eventually he just dropped the ruse and wanted to be friends.
That's kind of cool.
That's really cool.
I didn't want to be friends with him, though.
You're like, friendship canceled.
I know, but I'm just amazed that you're like, man, this guy's like, you befriended a scammer. Like,
no,
that's pretty. You conned like you just like befriended the scammer.
Yeah.
I can't.
But that's one of the caveats of dating online, especially if you're sick like me, you can't go anywhere and like meet the person. You're stuck to being virtual, and when you're stuck to being virtual, it just opens up these avenues for these scammer people to come in and try to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And it must work on some people because they keep doing it. I mean, I don't know. Like, are people that horny that they would send some chick a gift card so that there might be some possible chance she'd come over and have sex with you?
I think they're that lonely. Like, haven't you guys just gotten so lonely and isolated from this that you just
that lonely?
Are you lying? I can never tell when you're like teasing me.
Not enough to give them $500.
Oh, I would never give them money because I don't even have any. But like,
I have money. I don't trust that they would actually come over. Although I did end up talking to an actual prostitute back when I lived in Towson. This girl, she friended me. I forget what app I was on. It was one of those apps like rife with scammers, and I ended up meeting her and then having this like deep conversation about sex. She ended up telling me that her favorite word for vagina was tomato. I don't know. I don't know. It was because it was the passion fruit. It was the
The passion fruit, tomato?
tomato
Wouldn't
is
passion fruit be the passionate fruit?
Yeah, I was just thinking.
tomato, tomatoes are I forget what
Juicy.
no, they're called like has to do with love. They are
Oh,
they're a fruit associated with we lost Lexi.
we lost Lexi.
She'll be back.
That's
Anyway,
interesting.
yeah, I thought that was cool. Maybe we should have her on the podcast.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I don't
Although it's ours, I don't know how we incorporate that in. Phoenix, you're not in the podcast. That's December.
she knows what lovers want because she does it for a living.
Yeah. Maybe
We-
she could give us like,
Her-
positions for disabled for pain.
I'm
It's
sure
actually, she probably could,
yeah,
but
yeah. She looks like she's in relatively okay condition. I don't know
well,
pictures.
up next, we're gonna do our interview section with the Brookmans and then our friend Nick, and then we'll do like a powwow discussion about that. So stay with us, stay tuned. Hi, this is Christina Brookman, your host with Speaking in Spoons, with my lovely co-host, Dr. Strauss. And we have our guests, the Brookmans, Jane and Charlie Brookman, on here to talk about relationships and disability. So Charlie is actually my grandfather's brother. And so that is how we know each other. And I just want to ask you two guys to tell us a little bit about yourselves and why you're here.
Okay, I'm Jane Brookman, and I was a teacher with Roanoke City Public Schools for many years in elementary school, and then transitioned the last 7 years of my career to work with the special ed department in the central office and provide assistive technology for the students. And I was administrator for the IEP program. We instituted online IEPs, and so that helped me, I think, transition into when Charlie started having difficulties that limited his abilities to do things he wanted to do, to help work with him with getting some assistive technologies and some things. Archie, won't tell him about you?
I worked for a trucking company for 32 years, and then I built some houses, and this is how I met Jane. She came along one day and wanted to buy one of these houses, and I just sold it to her, and that's how we met. But it was years later after that we really met.
Okay. That's cute.
No.
So
friend
how
of-
long have you
of
guys
mine-
been oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. A friend of mine teased me that I bought the house and kept the realtor too. So
I like that. I think you guys are so cute. So how long have you been married now?
Going on 42 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, all right. How about that?
Yeah, that's incredible. And how
Never
would
had-
you
And never had any fist fights yet.
not yet to the
That's-
moon, Alice?
Too old now to fight.
How long were you how long were you in the marriage, the relationship, before you started having medical problems and disability, Charlie?
Oh, I don't know. How old was it?
Okay, your surgery, your first surgery was like 13 years ago.
Yeah.
So we were into like 28 years, close to 30
Oh,
years.
wow.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. And what are some of your medical problems and disabilities that challenges that you face, Charlie?
I've had a knee surgery replacement. I need another one and need a shoulder worked on. I had macular degeneration, and then they took cataracts off my eyes. And when they done that, I lost my eyesight. I could see to walk. I would use a cane all the time.
Yeah.
I've got to watch where I'm stepping because I can't see steps and stuff like that. And I have this lady here that helps me along. So
tell them about your back surgery too.
yeah, but I've had maybe 4 or 5 back surgeries, and that helped straighten me up. But
He has bars in his back that
Oh,
limits his mobility. He can't bend
okay.
over. So he can't dry his feet or tie his shoes or, things like that that people take for granted every day.
Yes. We Nate and I are very familiar with those acts of daily living that you take, like you said, people take for granted, and when you lose them, it's devastating and very hard to ask for help and get comfortable relying on other people. How would you say that your relationship has been affected by your health conditions from for both of your perspectives?
uh, I, I had when I lost my eyesight, I had been driving since I was 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I had to give up my driver's license, and I kept them until they ran out, hoping something would come along
Yeah.
and restore my eyesight, but it didn't. And that was the hardest thing I ever done, to give up because I did most of the driving until then, and she was happy to sit back and sleep while I drove. Now she has to drive, and I'm scared of going to sleep.
Are you that bad of a driver, Jane?
No, I'm
No,
a very
she's a
good
good-
driver.
She really,
I'm just teasing.
But,
But
I think the fact that his eyesight, he can't see, ahead of us and everything.
Yeah.
It just makes him tense when he's riding, and especially at night. It's like I think it's sort of like he's hurtling through dark outer space because he can't see what's coming at us. And
You don't know what's next. Yeah. I with these migraines that I was telling you about and trigeminal, there are periods where I can't see very well. And it's not what you experience at all. But I understand that fear of not knowing what's out there and what's ahead of you, and also the loss. I can't drive anymore, and the loss of that independence, that freedom is very emotional. Like you said, that I think has been one of my hardest things, is not being able to just say, hey, I'm gonna go to this place and get in the car and take myself there. I have to make arrangements, and there's a lot of power in driving, like freedom. Yeah. How would you say it's affected your relationship, Jane? Like your role in the relationship, maybe?
Well, we always had an equal relationship. There wasn't like a head and a sub or what. We were always equal. But I've had to take over and do a lot of the things that that Charlie always did. Anything
Uh-huh.
that would involve him driving himself and going and running errands and, just little everyday things, but also major things because he can't see to read. I've gotten power of attorney so I can sign for him, and any kind of business dealings that we have, I have to take care of that and all the paperwork and all the things. And so we're not really totally equal partners anymore. It's kind of shifted more in my direction.
Right.
But I try very hard to include him in all the decisions, and he knows everything that's going on. He just can't take over and do it.
Physically do it. Yeah. And so emotionally you're partners.
Oh, yes.
And it sounds like you had a really solid foundation of being partners.
Well, we did.
Which is wonderful. Yeah. And I know it sounds like Charlie, you have an incredible trust in Jane. Because I know how hard it is to allow people to sign not be able to read them. I have trouble with that. And I always there's this thing now where they want you to sign without reading because of and I'm like, no, I want to myself or somebody else needs a hard copy that we can read. I'm not just gonna, you telling me that that's what I'm signing for is not okay, because that could not be what I'm signing for. So I'm a real pain in the butt when I go to the doctors and I make them print a hard copy that someone can read and then we sign it. But I think I can imagine that takes a lot of trust on your part, Charlie, in Jane, for to allow her to do that. How can you explain what that's like for you?
I said a long time ago, people would say anything to us before I got like this. And I said, we live in a household of equals, and we do. We don't go to bed at night mad at each other. We talk about each thing we're going to do, have done to the house or whatever. We discuss it and agree or disagree, whatever. But we don't get in no big fights over it, so it's not worth it.
Yeah, you just talk it through.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I was gonna say, what do you think is the key to having this successful relationship so long?
You both give and take, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to have empathy. You have to be able to somehow, you can't really imagine what the other person's going through, but you have to understand it and have just everything that empathy entails. You just try your best, the best you can, to understand what they're going through and to try to make it easier for them.
If you could give advice to younger generations, or even, older generations that are now experiencing medical conditions that they didn't have previously in their relationship, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I think sometimes early in relationships, and I'm talking about maybe even 5-6 years married, it's really easy to, when you run across problems, to give up and, say divorce is an option, where I'm out of here, this.
Yeah.
But you just have to be committed to the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're deeply committed to the relationship, then you're going to see it through. And as each little small problem that comes along, that you can get through it together, you get stronger. And then when the big, hard problems come on, then you have some experience, some background in dealing with problems together, and you can lean on each other and you can get through that too.
Nate, did you have any questions?
I mean, it's nice that you have someone that you can rely on like a partner. It's just it's very fortunate that you got sick, but I mean, that's unfortunate, but that you had somebody there that was able to help you and care for you and understand or try to understand what you're going through. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. That
You
is
know,
something we both have struggled with, Nate and I know Lexi, so
I know we'll talk about this in our own conversation
yeah.
about relationships. I think we've all approached them a little bit differently. And I don't know if that's a generational thing or what, or just a luck of the draw sort of thing. Like we didn't, I mean, things could have gone differently for all of us where we would have been with somebody, or it's just this is the way things ended up.
And I'm not sure it's well, maybe it is somewhat generational, but I know a lot of, I know a lot of my generation that just threw in the towel and gave up too.
Yeah.
It has to be a personal, I think, decision that I'm committed to this relationship. But, not all relationships are the type that you can stay committed to, the things,
Right.
things, bumps come up that you can't overcome, but
But I love what you said about not going to bed angry and being, it's a household of equals, true partnership. Like I think a lot of people don't approach relationships like that. Like you talked about, there's no head, no, like I just think that's really healthy, the way you communicate together. It's beautiful, like Nate was saying.
Yeah. Is that just something that you've always felt, or something you had to work on to be with each other? Like I know when you marry someone, you commit to them through sickness and in health, and I guess maybe you took that to heart, right? Like that's why you're together, is because you made a vow to each other that you were going to be there. Is that, or is it something?
I think so. And I think my father set a wonderful example for me growing up. He had, he had difficulties with my mother. And in fact, Charlie asked him one time privately, how he was hanging on, how he was putting up with it. And he told him, he said, I made a commitment and I'm going to see it through. So, and he was there for everything she needed and in difficult times. And so I grew up with that example. And so I hadn't thought about that, coming into this conversation, but I think I did have that example. And I wanted to be like my daddy. I wanted to, to see it through. And so that gave me a better perspective maybe than I would have had otherwise.
And
How about you, Charlie?
she's a whole lot like her daddy too.
Yeah.
I think that I'm more like my brother, because my brother put up with a whole lot of stuff too.
Yes, he did.
You might want to delete that, but
No, I love my granny, but everybody that knows my granny knows she was a pistol.
yes,
And he was the calm in the storm.
he just took a whole lot.
Yeah.
But just an interesting thing, when your granny was in the nursing home and we would go visit her and tried to go often, and she and Charlie were not particularly close, but he was the only one left and we felt like we needed to go and so forth. And
Yeah.
every time she would see him, even though she also had macular degeneration and could not see
Yeah.
well, she knew when he came through the door and would call his name, and she would get hold of him and hold his hand and hold his arm. And I just know that she felt like he was the closest thing to your grandfather, that she had.
Yeah.
And so it totally changed their relationship, Charlie's and hers too, because she would just really hold on to him and just cherish his visits. So
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's cool. You guys both relating to people in your family, and like you talk about my grand and wanting, yeah, that's just, it's interesting, and I think it's beautiful.
Well, he was my hero growing up because as World War II came along, and my dad died a month before I was born. So the the four girls had to go out and work,
Yeah,
and mom didn't, it was just me and mom and Ernest there then. And then they drafted him in service, and times was rough. And so we just had to learn to get along together. But growing up with him, he wasn't hard to get along with. I picked at him a lot, and he let me know right quick he could fight back too. So, but he was easy going all of his life.
yeah,
Easy going. He had to be.
yeah. Well, it sounds like you have, both of you, have overcome a lot yourselves and have a lot of strength. And I'm just very grateful for, did you have any further questions, Nate?
Did I have-
Oh, go ahead.
Did you want to say something, Charlie?
Well,
Sorry.
no, just let him go ahead.
Okay.
Well, I'm just this episode is about relationships and relationships with people with disability. I'm just trying to. Do you think getting sick made your relationship stronger, or has it tested it? Like, it may be a little of both?
I think we had a good relationship before I ever got in this shape. I know we did.
So how do you feel now? Did it make it stronger, or has it tested?
Oh,
the
yeah.
relationship? Yeah, I think it has. Yeah.
I'm really dependent on her, and I can count on her all the time. She's
Okay.
always there.
So more like reinforced what you had together, because it made you actually, like, I guess, need it. Like you knew it was there, but because you got sick, you could actually lean on it and trust it.
And I've been able to do things I never thought I could do, which physically, some things that I've had to, be able to do, and
Oh.
just so it's just helped my, I guess, I don't want to say self-esteem, but maybe self-image. I don't know, but I just feel like I'm a stronger person because of what we've been through. Stronger in a lot of ways.
Independently and together. Yeah, that's neat. Thanks for asking that, Nate. That was a really good question.
That's a good thought-provoking question.
Yeah, I like that.
Sometimes, like, I mean, I'm sick, and I don't have a romantic relationship, but I have relationships with people in my family and friends, and it's interesting to see how they come together to do stuff for me that I'm just not capable of doing, and it's just interesting to see how people will come. Like, we're such a communal species, like we gather to people that need us, and we don't even think about it.
And we've experienced that too, because we have a lot of friends and family who have stepped in and have helped and have done so many things, and very willingly, and offer even when we don't know that we need something, they will offer. And so it's you're right, it's that communal instinct to look after each other.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
When
Okay.
she gets to running, sometimes she'll be running around the house,
Not literally.
just doing something. She's real busy. and I'm sitting in our chair, and all of a sudden she'll come sit down on the couch and says, "We need to talk." I said, "Okay, we'll go talk about it." But she's real serious. She's done thought of something she wants to talk about.
So he knows he needs to perk up and listen then.
Well, thank you guys both for being on our show today and answering our questions and opening up to us. And we just really thank you for that.
For asking us. This is I've used Zoom a lot, but this is our first podcast, so this is exciting.
It's ours too. We're kind of learning as we do this each episode.
I just wish we could have met you a lot sooner, because the first time Jane said you and your mother was up to my brother's house one time, and you must have been real little. I didn't remember it. First time I remember you is you sang at Ernest's funeral, and I thought you had the most beautiful voice.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad we're connecting now and building this relationship, because it means the world to me to have. I was telling Jane last night, you're my adoptive grandparents now.
And we
Wow.
gladly accept that position.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop recording. But up next we have Nick, and he's gonna talk to us a little bit about invisible disability and relationships. Hi, I am Christina. We are back with Dr. Strauss, Lexi, our co-host, and our friend Nick Howenstein. We're going to talk about relationships and invisible disability. So to get us started, Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you here.
Well, obviously, Christina, you and I have been friends for a while. And you know that I have major anxiety and depression issues and things like that. And I know that you and Nate, and I'm not familiar with Lexi, about your, mental and physical issues as well. So it's just interesting to discuss with, people that are, obviously you and Nate have physical manifestations of that type of stuff, but like we were talking about it, with me, it's more hidden, and especially in relationships.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So could you explain, like, for our followers, you're saying you struggle with anxiety and depression. How does that, on a daily basis, relationships aside, how does that look for you? Because I know, people think anxiety sometimes and they don't realize the how debilitating it can be for people. So
Yeah.
talk us
Christina,
through that.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Because it does not have the, it doesn't have the, like I said, the physical attributes, and stuff like that. Well, I shouldn't, sorry, that was incorrect, because it's not an attribute, but
It's okay.
but it's deep down, like in the, and daily it's like in your core, like in your chest, and it's like,
Stomach.
it's like just waking up every day. And it's like, is this going to be a good day or a bad day?
We get that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's a silent, it's the silent thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
What kind of things does it make you struggle with in your life? Like, we talk about acts of daily living with us, like going outside or taking a shower, cooking for ourselves, but how does it what does it interfere with you on a daily basis?
it mostly affects what I want to do during the
Okay.
day. And so yeah, and let me see. I'm trying to gather my words here. Is it just it it makes you very like I have like ups and downs, like peaks and troughs and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Like with being looking forward to a day, and then also and then another day I'll be like very cynical and like sardonic and stuff like that. And that is, and then with that in and with relationships, I'm sorry if I'm bloviating, like
You're fine.
but in terms of relationships and how it affects whether they are romantic relationships or platonic relationships, or I feel guilty a lot of the times because I don't want to project my weirdness, so to speak, upon them.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I know I do put weird in quotes because it's not weird to be, because it's like Marty Feldman in Young Frankenstein. It's like AB normal. What is normal? Yeah, like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Weird is the new black.
exactly.
Um
Yeah.
I
Well,
I
and
and I hear you describe yourself as weird a lot. And you've just mentioned guilt, and I do you so you feel, is that the way you feel about yourself in a way, or is it the way you think people see you?
I think it's the latter. Yeah,
Okay.
like how people see me. And um well, and also it's like I'm sorry to be making like pop culture references and stuff, but it's like the Blur song, Tracy Jacks. It's like, I love to stay here and be normal, but it's so overrated. Yeah.
Normal is overrated, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Oh, I just
And-
disappeared. I'm a floating head. You're pausing, but we can still hear you, so it's great.
well,
Um,
you're a floating head, and it is it is spooky season. So
it is. So
it's
yeah,
it,
we're
it's
speaking in
apropos.
spoons. We're getting ready for
Yeah,
Halloween.
it's apropos. So
Um, so how would you say you started talking about it, about how this has affected your relationships, but could you give us like a little bit more detailed picture about like maybe how it has interfered or challenged the way you have relationships?
well, I get very like nervous, which is very strange because I I balance between like confidence and diffidence, and stuff like that. And but it's like you asked, like I said, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but you asked like what type of day is it going to be?
Yeah.
And so in terms of relationships, it's like, okay, what type of day is it going to be? And not to get too graphic or specific or anything, but waking up to past girlfriends and stuff like that, it's like, uh-oh. It's like, is it gonna be a crappy day? Or is it gonna be a good day?
Yeah. I think that's something a lot of people can relate to is it going to be a good day? Oh, wait, you're still talking. I just couldn't hear anything. But I think a lot of people can relate to is this going to be a good day? Is this going to be a bad day? That struggle.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's a day-to-day thing.
Yeah. And I know just from when we spent time together, you would also shake a lot.
Oh yeah.
Which is was a new experience for me. So I was just trying to be supportive. But I know how stressful
Christina,
that was for you coming
very
to
much
see me.
I very much appreciated that, because I would look forward to seeing you and hanging out, but it's kind of like I get very anxious knowing that I'm going to have to be on like a long drive or a long flight or a train ride or something like that, like being stuck in one place.
Yeah.
It very much like gives me like tenses me up and everything. So, and I don't know. I don't like being confined, and I've always been like that from childhood. It's like,
Yeah.
don't tell me what to do. It's like it feels like that. You know what I mean? Like it very much feels that way. It's like if I can't get out of a situation, yeah, that really bothers me.
I felt like that on the boats in college. Like I felt like trapped on the boat, like you couldn't, and that's the way I worry about cruise ships would be like that like that sense that you're trapped kind of thing.
Those things are huge.
Let alone the trafficking.
I didn't even think about that. But how would you say, Nick, like, has your anxiety and depression, did you used to have like a view on relationships and the kind of like romantic relationships you would want, and then has your anxiety and depression changed your view on relationships or what you want for yourself or what you see as achievable?
Well, the thing is, I'm a very jealous person, and I know that negatively has affected my relationships, and that is probably a product of my anxiety. It very much has gotten to the point where my past relationships, my partners have been like, Nick, that's really not cool.
But also, like, do you do what most anxious attachment people do and go for avoidant attachment people?
What's that?
Go for avoidant attachment people?
What
So
is that?
there's three types of attachment. There's like normal people. Well, there might be more. I think there's another one that I'm not remembering, but there's anxious attachment style, avoidant attachment style, secure attachment style, which is normal people. And there's like a mix of avoidant and anxious. And anxious people tend to always get with the avoidant people.
What do avoidant people do? Do they avoid the person they're attached to?
They're they tend to be like, dismissive and kind of standoffish. There's people like, have you ever been in a relationship where you just felt like that person was distancing?
Yes.
Yes.
All the
So like
time.
that would be, yeah, that
so
would
like-
be avoidant people. Like,
So like ghosting.
yeah, ghosting. Well, they don't ghost you really. They're just like,
but Lexi,
they're
I
just
know,
like,
I know what you're getting. Yeah.
like, they don't really open up. They don't show vulnerability. Like they don't they're not gung-ho about being in the relationship. They'll generally like self-sabotage by cheating.
I
Yeah.
always get the extremes. Yeah. Nowhere.
So it's like kind of like a stoicism kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, it's just that they're so like they've been hurt. Like theirs tends to also come from trauma. So like a lot of that comes from trauma. Like if I recall correctly from the papers, there's like a little bit of trauma like involved with some of it, but you could just be also that, and it's not necessarily you had to have had trauma. But those with trauma tend to like you either like just you pull away and you like become an island,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
those people tend to be more
Okay.
avoidant.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like I've never like experienced in terms of like relationships. I've never specifically been traumatized or anything like.
Yeah.
I never had like a major event. I've never been like.
Well, I mean, it could just
Get
like
along
what they
or
say is
anything
like
like
it could
that.
also be from like your mother was very avoidant, so you became avoidant, or your mother was very anxious, and so therefore you became an anxious attachment style. Like it's like also like it plays into codependency and all kinds of stuff. Like it's really interesting if you want to look it up later.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, it's always good to hear other people's perspectives, and to and
Well, it's a psychological
read
it's a
upon
psychological like relationship thing.
literature and stuff like that. I mean, it's always.
He loves to read.
What's
I
that?
give you more
I'm
homework.
saying you love to read. Yes, and Lexi's giving you more homework. And now this isn't homework about people like starting wars and killing each other. This would be happy. Well, not really happy. It's relationships.
There was a really good question you asked. In a perfect world with no illness and all that shit. Oh, there we go. What was the question that you said, Christina?
What
In a
would you
perfect
want
world,
from a relationship?
yeah.
Yeah.
Would that
What
have
is
changed?
yeah.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yes. We're
So-
interviewing you.
Especially about that Kurt Vonnegut quote you dropped. Drop it.
Wait, which one? I have many.
I know, but you did the everything is beautiful and nothing hurts.
Yeah.
And that one's perfect because that is exactly what it's like with anxiety. Like
Yeah.
you just wish that like everything didn't set you off. Sorry, I have anxiety too.
No.
You're not alone in this.
No, and this is a you say ideal relationship, like feeling.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of going back to what I was just saying a couple of minutes ago is like, maybe when you were younger, I know you said you've always kind of had anxiety, but I know things have also kind of progressed, or you haven't. And like I guess when we're young girls, some of us have dreams about like what we're going to want for a relationship at some point.
I want
you know,
15
guys
kids. I want
yeah.
5 husbands. No, I'm
8 houses, 2 dogs,
gonna have a
and 1 picket
mansion.
fence. But like before this was like interfering with your life, what did you see? And has your disability, would you say that it's changed what you think a relationship could be for you? And but
Like, before we all got sick and everything, we probably had an idea that we were gonna all be like, like personally, I had the idea that I was gonna be a working woman, raising kids at home, doing it all, and now I'm sick. And because I'm sick, a lot of people don't want to be with me, which is cool. But like that whole thing where you had this idea that this is the relationship you were gonna have, that perfect, like, nuclear family and shit. And I know that probably isn't what you wanted, but like what was your idea
yeah, what did you want?
and how did you adapt with your illness?
Well,
Thank you. Much better worded than me, Lexi.
Sorry.
No, thank you.
well, speaking of like the nuclear family and everything, and it's like it's supposed to be this like very idyllic, it's like white picket fences and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's just it's not that's not what I wanted. I've never wanted that. And you grow up thinking that that is what you are supposed to have, but it's like stuff happens, and it just like it's like stuff just happens.
You have did you, if you could give advice to people out there that are in relationships with someone who has anxiety, or someone with anxiety who's trying to have relationships, what would you say?
I would say that transparency, like be open and honest, like let it out there, because it's it's going to come out eventually.
But the problem is, like, you let people know and they have this idea of how it's going to be, and they don't, and then reality hits and it's too much. They always think they can handle it better in the moment, and then it's just absolutely terrifying. And then after so many of those,
Yeah.
they just leave.
Well, but you don't, Lexi, you don't want to, hit them with it like all of a sudden.
Oh yeah. Well, no, like you slowly, gradually, like let them know, like
Yeah.
exactly what they're going to be dealing with over time. But generally, whenever it hits, like I like whenever you have like severe anxiety, like when your anxiety won't let go, and you are just always a ball of just anxiety, and like whenever it's really, really, really bad, and then they can't deal with it because it's worn them down over time. All right, that's personally my thing, but I'm projecting. Sorry.
Well, I will say I found it very helpful when Nick told me, like while we were talking before he came to visit me,
Yeah.
kind of what to expect and what he was going through. I found that helpful.
Yeah, it's like Christina, it's like you knew my stuff and I knew your stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like we hashed
And are
it
you
out.
ever really prepared? Like you said, Lexi, no, not till you experience it firsthand, but
Yeah. Well, and it's like, and sorry not to get too nerdy, but
Nerd away
yeah.
we all speak nerd.
fluently.
No, but like the Supreme Court Justice, sorry, Louis Brandeis, from the early 1900s. One of my favorite quotes is he always said, like, to paraphrase, like, the best antiseptic is sunshine, meaning just get it out there, And
Yeah, darkness can't exist in the light.
exactly. Like, it's like just
I like that.
don't. It's like don't obfuscate or anything. It's like just be upfront and
Right.
tell people.
Cool.
Because well, and that's the thing. It's like if you were dating someone who was blind or or deaf, it's like there are a lot of like actual like physical cues and stuff like that. But if you have anxiety, that's not necessarily an open thing. It's not a physical thing, other than like the shaking and stuff like that. But
There's things you need, just like they would need from somebody, like,
exactly. It's like
yeah.
yeah, but but it's like and I dated a woman who is deaf. And it's like, and she had a cochlear implant, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so you could physically see that she had some sort of disability, or you are using wheelchairs or walkers and canes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
it's hard for people whenever it's invisible to like realize, oh, this is them being anxious,
yeah,
because that's not something they normally have to think about.
exactly. And it's like, I don't want to have to like wear a sign around my neck, that says, "Hey, I have anxiety."
Yeah,
Yeah.
because people use it against you all the time,
Oh,
all
yeah.
the time.
Well, yeah. I mean, that
Well,
was why I was told to hide my disability initially by family and friends, because it wasn't because it used to be invisible for me. So when it was invisible, I just hid it. Didn't tell anybody. Went to relationships, never divulged it.
Then I brought you
Personally,
to
I
the
thought I
dark
was hiding
side.
it.
I'm sorry, to circle back to Christina.
It's okay.
One of the you say like relationship and anxiety.
Yeah.
One of my best memories is my former girlfriend, Christiana, and when we went to New Orleans over
Cool.
Valentine's Day
Mm-hmm.
a few
Oh,
years ago.
interesting Valentine's Day choice.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Was
I
it
mean, we all need a little voodoo for love, right?
Yeah, I feel like it could be either very romantic or very like hardcore party, or both.
Oh,
Why not both?
No, we didn't do like well, we did the Bourbon Street like stuff and like French Quarter, but we weren't like hardcore party and stuff
Like
like that.
raw. Okay.
Yeah. No, we just went to like nice dinners and stuff like that, and like
New Orleans. I mean, I've never been to New Orleans, but I imagine it's pretty much like I've seen the movie with that frog. I think I understand New Orleans.
oh, it's fantastic.
Why was that such a good memory for you, Nick?
Sorry.
Oh no. Because it was the last time that, or one of the times that I can remember that you just wake up and feel truly happy.
Mm.
Yeah, and it was like, I don't know if it was her. I mean, but then yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I did not feel anxious at all that weekend.
Yeah. I'm sure
And
that was very made it
it was
even more
relieving.
special.
Yeah, it was relieving. And
Yeah.
it was
Someone where you can be
yeah.
around them and that just melts away.
You think that's what it was? It was that
That's the thing. It's like,
comfortable.
Was there something she did, like something that like people who are in relationships with people with anxiety can keep in mind to make things more like that weekend for you, or just in daily life. You know, like things like, you know, hey, they get, sometimes we have outbursts. It's, you know.
Yeah, Lexi, that's an absolutely great question. She just, she has this, and we have not been in contact for, you know, a couple of years now. But she just has this like
Aura of calm.
calm about her, like, and her voice is very like dulcet.
That's why we need the stable people.
Yeah.
We need our anchors.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like it just bring it, like she just always like brought me succor, you know, and everything. It was just like she just had this like I don't give a shit mentality,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, or just like this calming presence. So
Mine just tells me you're spinning out, shut the fuck up, go sit down, calm the fuck down. Like that's what mine does. He's like, you're spinning out.
yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. It's like you can have the people in your life.
But sometimes we don't realize we're spinning out. So it's important to have somebody be like, yo, calm the fuck down.
Exactly. And it's like, regardless of whether or not it is a romantic partner or, you know, a platonic friend or
Caretaker,
family
friend,
member,
parent.
yeah, or something like that. It's like you have the ones who, like you said, just call you out. You know, call you out on your stuff.
And then you got friends like my friend Becky, who like is like turtle time, and she just hugs me and I just bury myself in her and she just holds me and wraps her body around. And that
Exactly.
is like the most calming, de-stemming. Is it called stemming? Stemming is whenever you're getting into it, and then whenever you're
Yeah, that's usually with people on the spectrum too, like the over stimulation.
yeah, but
Yeah.
anxiety gets that too. There's
Oh,
so many correlations with
yeah.
anxiety and autism too, which is cool. But sorry.
Yeah, so you have the people who like who will call you out on your stuff, or the ones who are just like they don't have to say anything, and they're just like, yeah,
Yep.
I get it, yeah, like,
Mm.
yeah,
But thank you, Nick, for being on with us today
yeah.
and opening up and being
I hope
vulnerable.
I hope you can.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right.
And stay tuned for
Host.
the hosts and I talking about
The
our
juicy
dirt.
stuff.
Yeah. Hi, this is Christina Brookman and Dr. Strauss and Lexi back with you. We're going to talk a little bit about the interviews you just watched or listened to, whatever your preference was. Let's talk about the Brookmans. Any thoughts or feelings there?
They're adorable. Like she's what I aspire to be. Like I was a caretaker and I felt like I wasn't patient enough. I mean, you know, you look back, especially after you die and they're dying, and you're like, I wish I'd done this better. But she just like seems like she's just so sweet, and she's just got it down, and they just are adorable. That's what I want.
That's what I want to. I look at them and I'm like, their communication is just, and you hit on that a lot during the interview, Nate, like their communication is just incredible. Their bond, their friendship, they're willing to work through things. And like you were saying, Lexi, about wanting to be like her as, you know, supportive. That's what I want in a partner. Somebody that is supportive like that and understanding and listens to me. And I also look at him and how calm and patient he reminds me a lot of my grandfather, who I said was like the calm in the storm. And I've always been like the feisty one, the talkative, one like my granny and searching for someone that is calmer and quieter than I am to kind of balance that. They just seem to have a really healthy balance. Yeah. And it would just be wonderful to find somebody that could put up with the crap we go through on a daily basis and not walk away and not get angry at you for maybe miscommunicating because you're in pain or you're scared, you know? Like, yeah, I just think that's amazing that they found that they have that. What about you, Nate?
Well, I thought it was interesting that when I asked her that question about their connection, she thought it had a lot to do with their upbringing, and she
Yeah.
had sort of to model. And coming from a somewhat broken home myself, it's kind of hard to see. I mean, it's not like it can't be done. My sister is in a very happy marriage for I think 7 years now, no longer. And my brother-in-law, or my half brother, also in a really great
Yeah.
marriage. So just because you come from a broken home is not like written in stone. That you can have that like perfect life, well, not perfect, but like that connection with someone else
Yeah.
if you didn't have parents necessarily to model it for you. So I think that gives a lot of hope.
Yeah.
That people
I think
could.
so too. It can, because I feel like I came from a broken home too. And how about you, Lexi?
I pretty much came from a very fucked up home and
Yeah.
very fucked up. I think my therapist likens part of it to misery.
Oh,
Um
God.
and
the play
so
myth
like
for the
I
emotion.
It's hard to know what like a healthy, loving relationship
yeah,
is,
and
you know?
that's a big part of my journey and my process, and I'm still really working on that. I I've had that, and my migraines became too much of a problem, and a lot of my relationships, the migraines were the big defining factor of why we broke up. There were other factors, but it was always a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I could literally, like, after a big attack, I mean, most of them after 6 months couldn't handle, like, I gave it 6 months. After every text there would be a breakup.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like uh, there were some cases that lasted longer and they were cool. But I mean, it's hard for anybody, and especially whenever a lot of them came from houses where they had a chronically ill parent. They didn't want to deal with that because they had watched that struggle. And a lot of them want that, that ideal mate, the one that goes to work and raises the kids, and that's just physically not something I can do. And also, I don't think, because I came from an abusive household, I don't think that I should have kids, because first off, I feel like I would probably end up having the next Hitler. Um, just because I'm fucked up, and genetically we're all fucked up, and and just karma wise, for like all the shit that I get, I would end up having like the next Hitler kid.
Really hope.
Karma
I'd have
could
to
give
spend
you the next angel,
huh?
Maybe you'd get like, Mother Teresa or something because of all
She
this
wasn't any good
stuff
at
you've
better.
been.
She was, ooh, Mother Teresa's
We'll
controversial.
go there next episode.
That is controversial. Do you hate Gandhi too?
There is controversy with Gandhi that I know.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, to keep us on track.
Yeah.
But that goes into an interesting thing that we're going to be talking about next episode too, is family planning with disability, because I have the same issue where medically I can't have kids, I know now, but also I shouldn't, or I feel morally obligated not to, because of everything I have, and I'm concerned about the child's experience. Like, I couldn't physically handle a young child, and I'm so light sensitive, smell sensitive, I have all these episodes, like, Lexi, but also with the trigeminal pain or the inability to regulate my temperature. Like summer, I'm a hermit. So
Yeah.
like whenever they want to go play soccer or go be on swim team, all this stuff, mommy can't go.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know if that would be fair to them. Like I have dated guys that have kids, and I get excited when I hear a guy has older kids because then maybe I could be part of a family. But it's I know I would never be somebody's mother. It's different,
Yeah.
and I could never replace that. So, but
Yeah.
that's next episode. But it does, I think, affect. I have had guys
How you date.
find that, yeah, it affects how you date because I try to be upfront about that, and there are lots of guys that don't want to date someone who can't have their own children.
Yeah.
And like I've gotten turned down because of that, or because of disability. But I appreciate them being upfront instead of getting me emotionally invested
Yeah.
and then just it being a traumatic ending. So what about Nick? Any thoughts about our interview with Nick?
I like Nick.
Um,
Just I thought it was interesting because you two, that's how you know Nick. You dated him.
Yeah.
It was interesting because like I heard from you before I ever knew Nick, so I was getting your perspective of Nick before I met Nick and found out his perspective of himself. So it was just
Yeah.
interesting to see the two stories sort of like a little butt heads a little bit.
I think that's always the case, but he's got a very good he's very self-aware, I think, and
Yeah.
that's really interesting and healthy, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're not aware of your circumstances, it kind of makes you a little bit like the obliviousness is very unattractive. I would say
Yeah.
Mr. Magoo kind of.
And I think it was really brave for him to come on and important because we don't talk about invisible disability, mental health disability. And it is something that affects him so dramatically, to the point of employment and relationships, and uh people need to hear about that because there's other people like that out there and they need to know they're not alone. What about you, Lexi? Any thoughts?
I loved his Kurt Vonnegut quote, everything's beautiful and nothing hurts, because that is the dream. Like that is so the dream, especially like with the invisible illness and the anxiety. You want everything to be beautiful because you want your brain to not be in that constant mode of like everything is a threat.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to come out of, and that's exhausting every day, and that's such the dream. Let's see, I took notes. So
Do
sorry
you want to
guys.
share any of
Let me
that?
explain. I had technical issues, which is why I was not involved with the interviews, but I have caught up. Yeah, I really liked your question about what a perfect world would what you would want in a relationship in a perfect world, and I wanted to know what you guys wanted.
Would you in a perfect world where I wasn't sick?
Where you weren't sick, what would you like? How would like compared to what you want now? Like what is versus what you would want in a like right now? Like I mean, for me, I personally have to set. I feel like you're gonna have to settle on some things because
Yeah.
the dating pool's not as big of people that are going to accept you.
Yeah.
And just having someone that actually cares and shows up, you've got that speaks volumes, and there might be things that you would never consider before, but now you do because you're sick.
Well, even when my disability was invisible and the dating pool was seemingly like wide open, it was still difficult to date.
Yeah.
It was just frustrating. Like no one had to really accept me as I was. But I mean, you would have to like I think I told Christina in our previous interview that I dated someone where I didn't get I think I said this in the interview. I dated someone where I didn't tell her I was sick.
Yeah. And
Found
you
out
got,
she found out at a party that I was sick, and she yelled at me about it. And then, but she had her own things, and there wasn't like we would break up, get back together, break up, get back together,
yeah.
and we even got back together like years later, and then broke up.
Yeah,
So,
but
yeah.
when you're disabled, there were people showing up for you every day means so much that
Yeah.
you might overlook parts that you wouldn't consider before,
I think it's definitely changed my perspective on what's important in a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I don't
know?
want to say overlook. I think it's you're looking for something different. I think now I'm looking for
Yeah.
like a personality more than just like I think I was more focused on physical attractiveness. Like I do want that, but I think
Yeah.
what's inside and how they treat you and talk to you is more important to me
Way
than
more important.
like
Yeah.
in sense of humor, beauty, like I just those things are important,
Yeah.
but they're not the deciding factors. Like someone who's in touch spiritually and can talk to me emotionally and is there for me when I need her means more to me now than all those other factors that make someone like relatively attractive.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that you said. That's definitely how I look at it. I'm
And sorry,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I would love to have kids.
Yeah.
I want a family. But that has changed. Like I could have a house of animals that are my kids. But I want someone to be with someone who likes kids, whether or not we have kids, and is okay with the fact that I can't have kids. Doesn't judge me or see me as weak. I had a doctor, my surgeon, on the phone called me a strong. No. This is a good thing. The doctor called me a strong woman. I've never had a doctor say that to me. And that just felt so good to hear because I have been through so much. And I know that I'm strong, but and this is gonna sound weird. Like I'm not like that's a doctor patient thing, but no, I want a partner who doesn't see me as weak
They
because
see
I'm
you as
disabled. They
strong.
see me as strong, as a fighter,
Yes.
and they want to be there with me and support me however they can best do that.
Yeah.
And who's not going to leave when it gets hard. Like with Charlie and Jane, they talk about, do they agree all the time? No. But they talk through things. They share things. I want to know when someone's upset about something. I don't want to find out all of a sudden that they're upset about something and have the whole thing be over. And
Yeah.
that's happened to me in the past.
Oh yeah, me too.
I want a best friend. And like for me, that's it. I want to marry my best friend or not have a piece of paper and live with my best friend and be best friends and lovers for life and just support each other with everything. However
the
that ends up
dream.
looking. That's the dream. I don't know that it's gonna happen. For me, it feels like I'm gonna have a lot of dates for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And, you know,
And then you feel like you have to settle on things if you want to have that relationship.
like I could care less about money or any. I want somebody who has their stuff together because my life is such a mess. But
Someone has to have control.
I want their life together, but by that I mean like they make the effort every morning.
Yeah.
Like they get up, like that's what I do. Like I have no money. I'm on food stamps. I use services, but I call and I make that stuff happen. Do you know what I mean? I want to know that they can take care of themselves. They can manage their bills, like they're not racking up tons of debt that I need to worry about. Because I have so much stuff on my own end. I do worry about dating another person that's physically disabled because not that I judge them for that, but I worry Like, I'm like, if we could both
That
get
you're
services and hang out together, that would be great.
yeah.
That's the dream.
But like it's
How can
hard
I
whenever
support
you're sick
them?
and you're also having to help someone else that's sick. I
Yeah, and
completely
I
get
wouldn't
that.
be able to support. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to support them the way they need, and I worry they'd be able to support me the way I need. Maybe it's possible. I don't know.
And I
Because
think
now I'm like, well, if we both had, my dream is for the three of us to get a Habitat for Humanity house, and we all live there and be happy for the rest of our lives with lots of animals, and maybe
Also-
we'll adopt some foster children to do the chores
for this
I
habitat,
want foster
we're
kids.
gonna have
and
habitat.
hang out and watch Marvel movies with us.
Yes.
Okay.
I just feel like
Sorry,
I
I'm
feel
totally
like-
interrupting you, Nate. Oh my
I don't
God.
have to support the dream. Like I like that dream. It just seems like it's just a pipe dream. Like there's no way
Totally a pipe dream.
house and then get animals and then what? Like who's gonna take care of us?
Well, we could get caretakers, maybe.
This dream is slowly like coming down as we're caretakers. We could get round the clock care.
That's
For
what
all-
the foster kids are for.
I
I'm
know
just
we're
kidding.
gonna
That would be horrible.
no,
It's
you
like
can't do that to
indentured
children. You
servitude.
can't make them
Everybody's
servants.
gonna like hate the podcast now. I'm totally joking. I love children, so please don't take that serious.
Yeah, you want
More people should adopt children and love them. Anyways,
for the house by adopting children.
Jesus,
Just a thought.
we're going to hell, Nate.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be an interesting. We'd have to evade the government.
Yeah.
We would be putting those kids to child labor.
I was just gonna say we need to get a big house that has room for our caretakers. Like that would
True
be more
that.
logical. I mean,
All right.
Big
One
house.
other than
lot of money so we can get a big house.
Yeah.
you gotta move out to the mountains.
Oh, that'd be nice. I would love to live in the
It'd be
mountains.
beautiful. This is happening, people. It's gonna happen.
I'd like to-
Christina, when I move out to the mountains, I'll find a place that will be big enough for us.
Yeah. We'll just
Sure.
marry each other.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
So, let's pass the conch again. How has disability affected your relationships? We've already kind of talked about this,
Well, I
but
mean, I'm
let's,
even dating now. Like I'm just negatively, I suppose. It's just got so hard. But I'm just not.
why has it
That's
gotten
not-
hard?
Well, my physical ability has got like I'm not driving anymore. I'm not really walking that great. The only thing that's improved really is my mood.
Yeah.
But like that
But
doesn't
that's
really.
a big thing.
I
It's
think
just-
people don't
That's a
realize
big
though,
accomplishment.
it's huge. But the reason I'm asking why and specifics is there's a lot of people out there that don't realize why it's hard for disabled people to date. Like what exactly we go through. So that's what I
No
want to
one
get
reads
to.
the
How does
profile
it
and sees it? So then you've got to have awkward conversations every fucking time you get a new dude messaging you, and you've got to like go through the awkward. Well, I'm sick and blah blah blah. And then they're like, and then then you got the that rejection, and then people can be assholes with that. And then
Yeah.
you've got everything you say. Like it's hard to get out of the house. Who want like you can't have a fun date like dates used to be going hiking and shit. Now you can't even do that. Like you can't do that. Like
dates, boyfriends, husbands don't want to be caretakers,
yeah,
is what I found.
yeah.
And I don't want them to be a caretaker. I want them to be an advocate.
And
It's
that
different.
comes to my favorite study.
It's a good
Men-
statistic. Yeah.
It's a good statistic. So they did a study on chronic illness and like chronically ill and terminal patients and their relationship. And 75% of men left while 25 stayed. And women, it was absolute inverse correlation with 75 staying and 25% leaving. So like, I mean, whenever I look at me being a straight woman, somewhat straight, yeah, I mean, I think they're cute. I think they're cute. I just don't really think I could like go all the way.
It's a spectrum.
Like where's the line?
Yeah, it's a blurred line. But
Or
I
above
mean, That's how I
Big
get my
ones
best. That's how I got
details.
my best friend. Was we had crushes on each other. Um, but yeah. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, yeah. So like looking at that, like it just makes more sense for me to not expect a relationship to work out, and that realistically, oh, I froze. I
It's
froze.
okay,
Didn't
you're
I?
there. We can hear you.
Okay. But no, like realistically, it's just why would I need to set myself up mentally for that to not be so devastating whenever it happens, because it happens a lot.
I
It
just
does. Like you said, Lexi, it's very traumatic when that happens. Especially when it's a sudden thing and you're sick and you have no
And it's nothing you can
resources.
control. It's for a
Nothing you
reason you
can.
can't control. And there's
Well,
nothing you can do about it.
and it's affected my dating since. Like I really look for. That's why I'm so, upfront from the beginning. This is all of the stuff. This is what you'd have to deal with. If you can't handle it, don't talk to me. And I don't mean that in like a don't talk to me, like
Yeah.
I've made lots of friends actually through online dating. That's been wonderful. But I will say dating when you're disabled, I did want to touch on is I feel less safe as a woman now that I'm disabled than I did before when I was more physically able to protect myself
Yeah.
in situations. And that but I last year I met somebody through online dating, and he never wanted to. We had different interests, but we quickly became very good friends. We hung out for several months, at least once a day every week. And my back went out, and I was just going through a flare up of where I couldn't walk. And so I was using a cane when we would hang out, and he took my cane away from me and he raped me. And it's not online dating, but you're more vulnerable in these, and it makes me cautious. And it happened again, you know, it happened twice last year. And the weird thing is I keep putting myself out there. I keep doing it because I don't want to believe that just because somebody did that or somebody left me years ago doesn't mean there isn't somebody out there that could be my best friend and partner, you know?
I'm not giving up, but it's just harder. And like,
It's
it's like
very hard.
when you get rejected because of that thing that you can't, like, you like when and you were upfront about it. Like, and
Yeah.
I think like it's really important if you do have a person that is acting as a caretaker to do relationship checks and make sure that things aren't healthy. I mean, are healthy, are still being healthy, and like having
I
that
mean, like a caretaker when
like
they
once a
looking
month,
at the
like
relation.
I would ask them, I'm like, is there any issues we need to bring up? Relationship check. Are we cool?
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
it opens up for
Do you feel
dialogue.
safe? Like, do you feel happy? Like anything?
Yeah, like you can bring up anything. Doesn't,
I've become very close with my caretakers. We're like friends,
well, I
and I
mean
love that.
I do it in like a lot of relationships. Are we cool? Like,
Yeah.
I'll do that a lot. But it's but especially romantic relationships, I would do that because they are taking on a caretaker role.
Yeah.
And
And you
Yeah.
can't ignore that. Yeah.
I just didn't
I
feel
like
like
that.
I mean,
Sorry,
that's,
Nate.
I mean, it's just what I just don't. I didn't think it was fair to do that to somebody, especially somebody you love.
yeah,
And that's part of the
that's
reason I
hard.
break up with some of my long-term girlfriends is because I didn't want them to have to. And now that I am here, I feel at least justified that I did end it with them because I wouldn't want that person to have to deal with this.
But it's
Especially-
hard because you don't want to do that to someone you love, but you need someone you love nearby
Yeah.
because it's so fucking hard and you just need someone to support you. And like it can be family, and this is about relationships. So we're also talking about family and friends. Like,
You need that support.
yeah. And the thing is, I found is that like the people that you need, like whenever I find out about an illness, like I find a lot of people come into my life. Like since I've been ill, like I found a lot of people have come into my life and a lot of people have left my life that are that were very toxic for the situation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had a friend who swore I was a hypochondriac for 15 years. This was my best friend for 15 years. She was still my best friend. And, I lived with her, and it took her after I moved out, like 3 years after I moved out, for her to actually look up my condition and and then she got empathy. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, that
Because
it's great
people
when
think
it
they know
happens.
everything, but
It's great when it happens, but even if they see it every day, they still don't
get it.
get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that's why I've done so much. I've just been having such a hard time dating that I think the one thing that's why I did so much work on myself is because I didn't love me.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, I don't need a person anymore because I found love for myself, and I think that's why I've been in a better mood.
Well,
Just
I mean, I would rather have my best friend pick me up out of the bathtub than, a caretaker. I would rather have, someone, that that isn't paid to be there.
But that's you.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, that's
But she's allowed to have that feeling,
yeah,
and I'm sure there's lots of people, and I feel like that sometimes. Like, I make friends with my caretakers, and it's actually like it's nice. We're Facebook friends. We chat, like,
Well, it's weird because we do physically need
we
someone to help.
physically need help. Yeah, and that's hard. But it's somewhere in between what you're saying, Nate, and what you're saying, Lexi. For me, like, I finally love myself. I wasn't there for a while. It took my divorce and things after that for me to take the time. Like, I didn't date for 6 years, and I took a lot of time to just get to know myself, work on myself, and so I know I'm my best advocate. I know that I love myself. I know I have incredible friends. And like what you were saying, Lexi, like the right people come into your life and the wrong ones leave your life. I think it gives you a better understanding of what real love is, because it's better the people that really love you are better expressing it. And like, I had a friend that I thought was my friend for years, like you're talking about, Lexi, and a couple months ago when the hemiplegic migraines were starting again, and I was also having the trigeminal neuralgia, and like people just don't get how much pain that, like, it's like considered one of the most painful conditions is. Yeah, like it's bad. And one night I had called everybody and nobody could help, nobody could come, and I literally couldn't walk to the bathroom. And I was scared, so I called. It did not go over well, and I was accused of calling at midnight, which I didn't. But her basic comment later was when I messaged very meanly to her because I was angry at the world, and I took it all out on her a couple months later because I needed to take it out on somebody. But she came back with that our relationship had become toxic, and that she wanted to be my friend and not my caretaker. And that really hurt because I was like, unfortunately, because of my conditions, often my friends are my caretakers. Like my roommates, Hillary and Beth, are incredible. Like, he'll often cook meals for me. He helps me feed Phoenix. Like when I fall, like every time I fall, and he's around, he comes, gets me, catches me, gets me in my wheelchair, like brings me ice when I get overheated. They hold my hand when I'm crying. Like they're friends, but they're also caretakers.
Showing up.
It's showing up, and I have a friend
showing up.
a power of attorney, and because like it's and as this isn't just about disabled people, it's about like as people get older, stuff happens medically and your loved ones are going to go through this and you need to show up for them and not take it out on them when they need you.
Yeah.
We
Not
shouldn't
tell
feel
them they're
guilty.
faking.
Yeah, not tell them they're faking, not tell them they're being dramatic. She told me, she's like, well, you should just, she's like, well, at least you weren't dying. You're like, you should just
You
go.
need to push through.
Yeah. And I told her, I was like, well, I'm back in my wheelchair, but at least I wasn't dying. That was a little harsh, but because she had been like, you're not dying, Christine. I'm like, no, I'm not, but I'm paralyzed and I can't get to the bathroom and I needed help because I was literally going to pee the sofa and poop myself, which has
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, and it does happen
So
with our condition.
it does.
I love how I was accused of doing that for attention once by my mother and for pissing the bed and vomiting everywhere while I was paralyzed. I was doing that for attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. You're
Yeah.
pissing yourself because you don't get enough love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
And can
she
we
was
just talk
downstairs
about
with other family members, so I was upset because she wasn't up there taking care of me.
it's
I mean,
ridiculous.
people say things like that because they want to distance themselves from what's actually happening.
Yeah, I know. And and you know that, and you see that, and it hurts because
It
people
really
just
hurts, yeah.
distance. And you realize you didn't really you did a lot for that person and they don't give a shit about you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what hurts them most.
I don't like that. That's why dating's so hard, is because you don't want to bring that. Like, as much as you want another person emotionally, romantically, whatever type of connection you want with them, I think the hard part is that reality that is you, and putting another person in that and saying, love me. And
But maybe we just rush into the romance part. And like, I just want a best friend who I also, have fun with. That's what a relationship should be anyways, right?
Maybe we should get on Bumble Friends.
Bumble friends.
Yeah, and search for instead of romance on Bumble.
Well, I like eventually for there to be romance, but I think it's something that should build,
Yeah. You have to get a good foundation.
Yeah, like they were saying, like Jane and Charlie were saying, they had a good foundation.
Yeah. Well, I do always say that soulmates aren't found, they're forged. And like, you can't find a person, you have to build a person. And if you don't have good materials, that person's going to suck. Like, you have good starting materials to build a soulmate, but you have to build it. You can't just get it.
Build, like, change them, or like work together to create.
Metaphor, Christina.
Well, I can be literal. Sometimes you're literal. Oh God, I just choked on my water.
Dating is interesting now that I'm very much disabled. And I think it's changing the game of it. Like, it used to be more of a game of playing it. It was a game of numbers. Like, you wanted to talk to a lot of people, but now you're more looking for in the rough. You want one genuine person.
And nobody's single, like in our age group. Like we're
40, so the dating pool has shrunken.
It's shrunken.
Yeah, it's shrunk, and the only people that are left are just.
I get hit up by a lot of 20-year-olds, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, did you look at my age? No.
I'm not into the cougar.
Or like 60-year-olds.
Rock it if you are. Like, I mean, if you can get a 20-year-old, then go for it.
But then I'm with a 20-year-old.
But see, women
in our time with 20-year-olds, right?
35. We peak at 35. We peak sexually at like 30, like 35.
You pass
peak sexually. That's whenever our sexual peak is, and men
not
tend
true.
to be at like 19 and 30. Like, our sexual drive ramps up at the end of our
Yeah, but I took a break in my 30s. So
I
have
too,
like leftover
but that doesn't
reserve.
mean my batteries didn't die all the fucking time.
No, it's leftover reserve that needs to be used. froze, Lexi, but you didn't.
No, I
There you
didn't.
are. You look beautiful. Yeah. Well, next week, guys, we're gonna talk about reserve batteries and family planning. Speaking in spoons. Oh wait, we didn't do our little song. What were we gonna? Bom 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 bom. 'Cause I love you. No, that's not it.
Lizzo? The Lizzo?
Lizzo,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
Or would you do
I'm not mentally prepared for that.
But you're so good at it.
I know.
Just pump me up.
I need a little. God, we're so white.
I don't
Oh
know.
my God.
We're
This
very-
is pain management right here. Laughter. Laughter is the key. Peace, guys. Stay safe from the hurricane. Forge some soulmates.
If you want to contact us, please send a DM or an email to speakingatspoons@gmail.com with any stories you have, or if you'd like to interview with us on any of our upcoming topics. Thank you for listening to Speaking in Spoons, and have a great day.